I accompanied the Empress Dowager to Mount Wutai for 6 months. Upon my return to the capital, I found that my husband had moved his mistress into our residence. He said to me, "The household needs a woman to manage it. You were away for half a year. Pingting has been working hard to take care of the inner residence for you. You should be grateful to her." His favoritism towards her was the talk of the town. Some felt sorry for me, others waited to see me become a laughingstock. It seemed they had all forgotten. I was the matriarch of the house, and moreover, a titled lady favored by the Empress Dowager. Would I really let myself be bullied? When the Empress Dowager returned to the palace, the Emperor and Empress greeted her at the outer gates. The civil and military officials lined the sides. The air was filled with shouts of "Long live the Empress Dowager." The imperial family embodied the pinnacle of honor and nobility. On this trip, the Empress Dowager had stayed at Mount Wutai for half a year. I was the only noblewoman to accompany her. I glanced at the rows of military officials and quickly spotted my husband, Chen Huayu. He had inherited the title of Marquis of Beiwai and held the position of a militia colonel. The Empress Dowager took my hand and said to the Emperor and Empress, "For the past 6 months, the Marquis of Beiwai has been by my side, diligently copying scriptures for me. A while ago, when I had no appetite, this child was so worried. She pickled plums, made 8 treasure cakes, and came up with all sorts of appetizers." I quickly replied, "It was my duty." The Empress praised my virtue and filial piety. The Emperor also spoke. "Lady Chen has served the Empress Dowager with merit. She is to be rewarded." This was exactly what I wanted. The Emperor valued filial piety above all else. From now on, I was not only a favorite of the Empress Dowager, but the Emperor and Empress would also remember my service. I accompanied the Empress Dowager back to her palace. She was reluctant to let me go, telling me to return to my residence to rest and come back for the banquet in the evening. Her affection for me was clear. Outside the palace gates, Chen Huayu's carriage was still waiting. The coachman saw me and announced my arrival. Chen Huayu stepped out. He took my hand, his voice filled with concern. "You must be tired, my lady." I looked at him, searching for a flaw in his performance, but found none. The concern in his eyes was genuine. But not long after I had arrived at Mount Wutai, I had received news. He had moved his mistress into our home and was doting on her. I said, "To be able to serve the Empress Dowager is an honor for our marquisate." When we returned to the residence, the gatekeeper had been replaced, as had the steward. A young woman in a matron's hairstyle surrounded by maids came to greet me and curtsied. "This servant, Song, pays her respects to you, my lady." I looked her over. She wore a translucent green jade hairpin, and her dress was made of cloud-patterned brocade, a fabric so precious it was said to be worth its weight in gold. Even her shoes were adorned with large pearls. I scoffed and looked at him. His face still showed no trace of guilt. He said to me, "The household needs a woman to manage it. You were away for half a year. Pingting has been working hard to take care of the inner residence for you. You should be grateful to her." While I was away, his mistress had moved in, replaced my staff, and now I was supposed to be grateful. Normally, no matter how displeased I was, I would have endured it to protect my carefully cultivated reputation for virtue. But in that moment, I suddenly didn't want to endure it anymore. I laughed, a sound born of fury. Should I thank her for seducing a married man, or for daring to wear my hairpin? Song Pingting, like a frightened deer, looked to him for help. He gave her a reassuring glance, then frowned at me. I took that hairpin from the storeroom. "You should not make baseless accusations against Pingting." "I do not blame her. I blame you. But I am magnanimous. You will return the hairpin to me now, Marquis. After I have had all my belongings inventoried, we will settle the accounts. It is just a hairpin. I will personally buy you several more tomorrow." There is a banquet at the palace tonight. The Empress Dowager has granted me permission to attend. I mentioned to her that I would be wearing this green jade hairpin, so she could admire it. He looked at me with disappointment, as if scolding me for being unreasonable and lacking in grace. But my resolve was firm, and I had invoked the Empress Dowager. He looked at her with pity. "In the future, I will find a fine piece of jade, and have a craftsman make you several hairpins. This one. I mistakenly took it from my wife. Song Pingting removed the hairpin and offered it to me. I did not know it was yours, my lady. To wear it for a few days was merely a poor imitation. Please forgive me. I sneered. To know it is a poor imitation and still parade it about. That is your crime. I have been serving the Empress Dowager and have just returned. For now, you will be confined to your quarters as punishment. Her face turned pale, and she looked at him in a panic. He frowned at me again. Have you just returned only to stir up trouble in the household? You are mistaken, Marquis. For the 7 years I have been married into this family, the household has been united and harmonious. If there is trouble now, it is surely not my fault, but the fault of this extra person. Tears welled up in her eyes. I have had a difficult life and only seek a place of refuge. What have I done wrong? Fine, you have done nothing wrong. Then the one who is truly at fault is the person who brought you into this residence while I was away. I narrowed my eyes and stared at him. He glared back, but he was the first to look away. Unreasonable, he snapped, then took her hand and turned to leave. I raised my voice. Before I leave for the palace, if even one item is missing, I fear I may become distressed and say something untoward in front of the Empress Dowager. The maids who had stayed behind in the main courtyard were all red-eyed with indignation. When the Marquis wanted to open your storeroom, we could not stop him. When we said we didn't have the key, he had the lock changed. Hongyu argued, and he threatened to sell her. When the steward said her servitude contract was with you, he sent them both to the countryside estate. It sounded as if he wanted to completely break with me, but I wasn't dead. I was by the Empress Dowager's side. Was he mad to do this? I sent a servant to the estate to bring back the steward and Hongyu. Then I ordered the others to take inventory and make a list. My dowry was not large. A failing shop, a chest of jewelry, and a few miscellaneous items. But in 7 years, that shop had turned a huge profit. I dared say that half of the Beiwai Marquisate's current wealth was due to my efforts. Both he and I came from noble families and had lost our parents early. After his father's death, he inherited the marquisate. In my family, the title passed from brother to brother. My second uncle became the Marquis of Pingxi. As my parents' only daughter, I was raised in his household. But my aunt and cousin saw me as a thorn in their side and made my life difficult. My uncle turned a blind eye. Perhaps he had even approved of it. That I had survived, grown up, and married into the Beiwai Marquisate was partly due to luck, but mostly due to my own careful planning and struggle for survival. My uncle and aunt looked down on him. After the old Marquis's death, the Beiwai Marquisate had fallen into decline. His colonelcy was merely a nominal title with no real power. After we married, I encouraged him to practice martial arts, to actively seek assignments. I moved among the noble ladies, spending 6 years to get close to the Empress Dowager, until I became her favorite. I still remembered the night before I left for Mount Wutai. His eyes were downcast, filled with self-reproach. My lady, it is my own incompetence that forces you to work so hard. The flickering candlelight cast shadows on his face, making him seem all the more sorrowful. I forced a smile. It is my duty. We will make the Marquisate prosper together. Yes, he said, his eyes fixed on me, filled with an all-consuming passion. My lady, I will wait for you to return. At that moment, at least, I was willing to believe his affection was genuine. But not long after I arrived at Mount Wutai, I received the news. He had not only been keeping a mistress, but had moved her into our home. I was devastated. My maid was indignant and urged me to ask the Empress Dowager for justice. I quickly calmed myself. I devoted myself to serving the Empress Dowager, never mentioning the matter. But who was the Empress Dowager? How could she not know? I wanted her to see that in my heart. Serving her was more important than anything else. Since he was unreliable, I had to cling even tighter to her. My lady, the wife of the heir of the Duke of Dingguo has brought the young master and young miss back. Quickly, let us go and greet her. Before I could finish, Zhao Linfei's cheerful laughter rang out. Su Miaoyi, I've come myself. She walked in, holding a child in each hand. My 6-year-old son saw me, hesitated, and then ran toward me. Mother, my 4-year-old daughter looked at me, then at Zhao Linfei, as if she no longer recognized me. I knelt and coaxed her softly. Teng'u, mother is back. She hesitated for a long time before calling out mother, and slowly walking to my side. As I held her, my tears finally fell. Zhao Linfei sighed. It is good that you are back. The children have missed you very much. I had missed them too. Every moment, while the children were playing, she told me what had been happening in the capital, including the rumors spreading from our residence. That I was arrogant and jealous, that I had broken up a pair of true lovers. Some defended me, while others waited to see me fall. Miao Yi, she said, do not underestimate Song Pingting. She has a relative in the palace who was made Consort Yi by the emperor, and she is his favorite. I see. No wonder he was willing to break with me for her. He thought she was more useful. And, she continued, do not blame me for investigating them, but he was already with her before you were married. She was a commoner. He needed a wife who could help him restore his family's fortunes. At that time, you were his best choice. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. And at that time, he was my best choice. But you did not secretly keep a male lover and bring him into your home. He cannot compare to you. Her words made me laugh. The sadness and anger I had felt began to dissipate. We had been married for 7 years with a son and a daughter. There were no other women in his life. Many envied me. How could I not have feelings for him after 7 years? But I knew that though I had grown fond of him, a part of me had always remained rational, or perhaps, guarded. He kept a mistress behind my back. I never fully trusted him. Even for this trip, I had found an excuse to entrust my children to her. After she left, he came. The new steward directed the servants to place the chests in the courtyard. I had the children taken inside to avoid any accidents. The things are all in the residence, just move to a different place, he said. If you want them, I will have them all brought over. The impatience in his face, the blame in his voice. It was as if he saw me as an obstacle. I took a deep breath. Although the things are here, I have been away for half a year, and there is a new person in the residence. To avoid any omissions, it is best to check everything carefully. With that, I had the maids begin the inventory. He scowled and turned to leave. The servants all bowed their heads, holding their breath. I scoffed and stopped him. Marquis, though these things are not priceless treasures, they are numerous, and their total value is not small. If anything is missing, I will have to ask you to replace it. It would be best if you were present. He stood there, seemingly unable to decide whether to stay or go. The steward stepped forward. If the Marquis and Marquise would rest, we will complete the inventory as quickly as possible. He took the opportunity to walk into the main hall. I couldn't help but look at this new steward. He was methodical and spoke flawlessly. All the more reason he could not remain as the steward of this residence. I gestured, and the maids began to count. Not long after, a maid reported, "My lady, this butterfly pearl flower is not the original one." He glared at her, a warning in his eyes. "Are you sure? But how could my maid possibly understand his look?" "Your lordship, my lady, we are all certain. The original one had an oriental pearl in the center. This one does not." The expression on his face was taut, as if he were about to explode. Then another maid reported, "Your lordship, my lady, this peace buckle is not the original either. At the beginning of the year, the young miss was playing with it. My lady was afraid she would put it in her mouth and took it from her. It was chipped on the corner of the tea table. There should be a small nick here." His hands gripped the arms of the chair, his veins bulging. I chuckled. Perhaps the servants made a mistake. "Steward, go and look for them." "Yes, my lady," the steward replied. He had been brought in after her arrival, so he would naturally go to her. About an hour later, he returned. "Your lordship, my lady. We have searched everywhere but cannot find your belongings. Please give us more time to continue the search tomorrow." This meant she refused to give them back. Or rather, she no longer had them. I glanced at him thoughtfully. He frowned, and seeing my look, I ordered, "Continue the inventory. Make a clear list. What is mine? Not a single item shall be missing." In the late afternoon, I went to the palace for the banquet. As I was leaving, he followed me and got into the carriage. "You are attending a banquet at the palace. It is only right that I accompany you. If we do not go together, it will be the subject of gossip, and the Empress Dowager will surely question it." I said nothing, closing my eyes and pretending he wasn't there. But he suddenly became talkative. "My lady, do you remember our wedding day? Our families were both noble, but we were both children without parents, looked down upon by others. That day, there were few guests. Many families just sent a servant with a gift. I was so dejected, hating myself for not being able to uphold the family's honor. You told me to be strong. You said you would help me restore the marquisate, so that those who looked down on us would never be able to reach us." It sounded as if he remembered my kindness. But if he truly did, why would he keep a mistress, bring her into our home while I was away, and give her so many of my things? I could only assume that his sudden display of sentimentality was an attempt to make me sacrifice my own interests. I sneered. Indeed, some people can no longer reach us. The items that were found to be incorrect or missing today were either priceless or held special meaning. Like the missing filigree lotus and red coral hairpin, it was a gift from the Empress. You had best urge the servants to find everything as soon as possible. His expression stiffened, and he said no more. I couldn't be bothered with him and continued to rest with my eyes closed. At the palace gates, attendant Rongyu from the Shoan Palace was already waiting. When she saw me, she greeted me warmly. "Lady Chen, you have finally arrived. The Empress Dowager has been waiting for you. She has asked about you 7 or 8 times. "Then I must hurry," I said, about to head in her direction. "There is no rush," she said with a smile. "The Emperor and Empress are with her now. She has instructed you to go directly to the Hall of Supreme Harmony." With that, she accompanied me. She was the head attendant of the Xuan Palace, respected even by the imperial concubines. She had come to the palace gates specifically to greet me, but she completely ignored him, who was beside me, and even showed a hint of displeasure. This was the Empress Dowager's attitude. At Mount Wutai, I had endured in silence after receiving the news, focusing on serving her. I had achieved the effect I wanted. In the Hall of Supreme Harmony, besides the imperial family, there were only a few high-ranking ministers. The moment we appeared with Rongyu, all eyes were on us. She led me to the front. I, of course, declined, saying it was against protocol, and took a seat at the back. He sat down beside me. Since we had left the carriage, he had been calm and composed, showing no signs of pride or impatience. He was a master actor, better than any on stage. After the Emperor, Empress, and Empress Dowager arrived, the banquet began. The Empress Dowager has returned from her prayers. I am overjoyed. Today is a family banquet. Let us all be at ease and not be bound by formalities, the Emperor said. Though it was impossible to be truly at ease. After tonight, my status among the capital's noblewomen would be even more secure. However, the thought of him sitting beside me, and that concubine song in our residence, made my heart sink. To secure my position to maintain this wealth and honor, I still needed to plan carefully. I glanced at the imperial concubines. There was one young consort I had not seen before. She wore a filigree lotus and red coral hairpin, identical to the one the Empress had given me. Perhaps sensing my gaze, she looked at me and smiled, like a blossoming peach flower. I quickly realized this was Consort Yi. The Empress might not remember the hairpin, but how could no one in her entourage recognize it? It was a registered gift, not something given casually, but the Empress acted as if she had not noticed, allowing her to wear it, surely knowing I would see. I feared the Empress already had a plan. During the banquet, she performed a dance for the Emperor and Empress Dowager. Her sleeves flew, her movements graceful, turning the hall into a celestial paradise. I was mesmerized. So that was the kind of relative she had. I secretly looked up at the dais. The emperor was captivated. The Empress Dowager and Empress were smiling. Looking down, I saw jealousy and unwillingness in the eyes of some of the younger concubines. I lowered my head and took a small sip from my cup. Only then did I realize it was water, not wine. He leaned over and whispered, "You get drunk after one cup. I had them change it to water." Faced with this long-absent concern, I felt no gratitude, only a sense of tragic absurdity. When we first married, I couldn't hold my liquor, but after attending countless banquets, I had developed a tolerance. I had told him at least 5 or 6 times. He still had not remembered. It was late when we left the palace. I was so tired I was dozing off in the carriage, but he insisted on talking. He kept repeating, "I will find your things, but you have to give me some time." I sat up straight. "If you request the title of heir for Linner, then besides the imperial gifts, I will consider the other missing items as a gift to you and concubine Song." He frowned. "Linner is still young. I will request the title for him when he is older. In noble families, it is not uncommon for a child to be named heir at a young age. Linner is our legitimate firstborn son. Even if Pingting has a son in the future, the heir to the marquisate will still be him. This title will be his eventually. Why are you in such a hurry? Since it will be his eventually, what difference does a day make? I see you are not in a hurry for him to be the heir, but that you do not trust me. You are my legal wife, and he is the legitimate firstborn. No one can shake your position." Normally hearing him say this in anger should have reassured me. But trust, once lost, is hard to regain. Making Linner the heir was just a bonus for me. It didn't matter if he disagreed. To avoid future trouble, I would not let him have any more children. After all our years together, Marquis, do not think I am making things difficult for you. Next month is our daughter's birthday. Please return all my things before then." He was furious, his eyes wide. I readjusted my position and continued to doze. This day had been too tiring. Even if he set himself on fire, I would not care. At the residence gate, she was waiting eagerly. When she saw him, her eyes lit up like stars. The frustration on his face vanished. He hurried to her and took both her hands. "Didn't I tell you not to wait for me? It is so late. Why aren't you resting?" she said softly. "I couldn't sleep. I just wanted to wait for you." Their eyes met, a tender atmosphere surrounding them. And I was the venomous woman who had ruined their beautiful moment. I spoke up. "Isn't concubine Song supposed to be confined to her quarters? Why is she out?" She once again looked like a frightened deer, her eyes wet as she hid behind him. He glared at me. "You confined her, but I am the true master of this residence. From now on, she will not be under your control. In this household, there will be no distinction between you two." I burst out laughing. Fine, fine. No distinction, just return all my things first. Otherwise, our residence will become a laughing stock. The Marquis of Beiwai not only taking his wife's private property, but also favoring his concubine over his wife." At this, I raised an eyebrow and asked innocently, "Oh, right. Favoring a concubine over a wife, will that lead to impeachment?" If he wanted to favor his concubine, he had to have the ability to do so. Back in the main courtyard, I first went to see the children. They were fast asleep. A maid whispered, "My lady, the young master and young miss insisted on waiting for you." They fell asleep, waiting. I nodded and tiptoed out. When I finally lay down, I was no longer sleepy. The scene at the gate, though not particularly painful, had shocked me. His feelings for her were deeper than I had thought, and with a Consort Yi in the palace, I could not be careless. As I was thinking, I drifted off to sleep. I woke up when the sun was high in the sky. I got dressed and sent a request to enter the palace. I first went to pay my respects to the Empress Dowager, then went to apologize to the Empress. Losing a gift from the Empress was a great offense. I knelt before her and begged for forgiveness. Her gaze fell on me. After a long while, she laughed softly. "Lady Chen, you may rise." "Thank you, Your Majesty." I supported myself with one hand and swayed as I stood. An attendant by her side steadied me. A seat for Lady Chen. I thanked her again. She asked casually, Lady Chen, how did you lose it? Your Majesty, before I left the capital, I locked all my valuables in the storeroom. But when I returned yesterday and took inventory, I found that the filigree lotus and red coral hairpin was missing. I was at fault for losing your gift and did not dare to make it public. I thought perhaps I had misplaced it and had the servants search for it. But then, at this, I stopped. My head bowed low. The Empress said, You may speak freely. I absolve you of any crime. I gathered my courage and knelt again. Yesterday, at the banquet, I saw a consort wearing a lotus hairpin that was very similar to the one you gave me. I was far away and may have been mistaken. Oh, do you remember which consort it was? Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I do not recognize her. The Empress laughed, but her eyes were dark. Look at Our Lady Chen. She is a favorite of the Empress Dowager, yet there is a consort in this palace she does not recognize. Hearing this, I was truly frightened. The Empress was not only using me to punish Consort Yi, but also to warn me. To get close to the Empress Dowager, I had curried favor with many of the palace's mistresses. The Empress had rewarded me, and the other high-ranking concubines had spoken well of me. I am terrified. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. Enough. Rise. I consider you family. Would I really punish you over a mere object? Thank you, Your Majesty. As I stood, I wiped the sweat from my brow. I had gambled correctly. The Empress sent for Consort Yi. When she arrived, she was wearing the hairpin. Up close, it was indeed mine. The Empress said slowly, Consort Yi, Lady Chen has lost a red coral hairpin that I gave her. Her eyes widened in surprise, as if she had no idea. The Empress said gently, Do not be alarmed. Let Lady Chen see if it is hers. Yes, she replied, and removed the hairpin, handing it to me. I took it with both hands and examined it. Your Majesty, Consort Yi. It looks like it, but I cannot be certain. What if a craftsman made another one? It would be a misunderstanding. Do you look down on me, Lady Chen? Are the gifts I bestow upon my subjects not unique? Though her words were a reprimand, her tone held no anger. I have been ignorant. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. Enough, since you cannot recognize it. Let the one who made it do so. The artisans from the jewelry department arrived quickly. They all confirmed that this was the hairpin made for the Empress. Consort Yi slowly knelt, her eyes wet with tears. Your Majesty, I have been wronged. This hairpin was among the gifts I received when I was made a consort. I did not know it was a gift from you. The Empress comforted her. Consort Yi, do not worry. I believe you. The problem must be with the Beiwai marquisate. She wiped her tears and stood with the help of a maid. The Empress then turned to me. Lady Chen, did someone from your residence present a gift on your behalf and mistakenly take this hairpin? My mind raced. Your Majesty, that must be it. I was in a hurry and made a mistake. The Empress nodded. As long as it is found, you may both leave. After leaving the Empress's palace, Consort Yi walked up to me and smiled. Lady Chen, Song Pingting is my cousin. My parents died when I was young, and I was raised by my aunt and cousin. Now that she is in your residence, relying on you and the Marquis, I hope you will take good care of her. Concubine Song is virtuous and gentle. I am very fond of her and will treat her as a sister. With your words, I am at ease. With that, she looked at the hairpin in my hands. This hairpin, the Beiwai marquisate is short one gift for you. We will naturally make it up. She laughed lightly and left, satisfied. I lowered my eyes, hiding the mockery in them. She had entered the palace as a maid, and in such a short time, had caught the Emperor's eye and gained his favor. How could she have done so without connections? And coming from a poor background, how could she have had the money to bribe people in the palace? With this hairpin, anyone could guess that she had been using my money, given to her by Song Pingting, to make her way. The more the Empress and the other consorts hated her, the more they would despise him and her. Rong Yue intercepted me on my way out. Attendant Rongyue, does the Empress Dowager have any instructions? A smile appeared in her eyes. The Empress Dowager heard about the matter of someone from your residence presenting a gift to Consort Yi. She asked me to tell you not to worry, that she will handle it. Hearing this, I made a show of gratitude, bowing in the direction of the Xuan Palace. You should return to your residence quickly, my lady. You have only just returned and have been troubled by such thoughtless people. See, this trip to Mount Wutai was worth more than I could have imagined. When I returned, he was waiting for me. His face was furious, but he held it back. You promised me you would wait until Tongor's birthday. Why did you go to the palace today? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I admired the hairpin before placing it in my hair. Yesterday when she wore this hairpin to the banquet, did you think the Empress wouldn't see? Losing a gift from the Empress, who would bear the responsibility? Her or you? He was speechless. He was anxious but helpless. What do we do now? He finally asked. Naturally, we must show that we are correcting our mistakes. How? First, reprimand the servants and replace the steward. How could they have been so careless as to take a gift from the Empress and give it to Consort Yi? He frowned but did not object. I softened my voice. The old steward was here when your parents were alive. He served the family for half his life. To send him away to the estate like that, what will the other servants think? He was silent for a long time, then stormed off, leaving only the words, "You handle the household affairs." Watching his retreating figure, I was suddenly reminded of the many times this had happened before. He would leave the problems to me and disappear. In the past, I had thought it was because he trusted me, for the sake of the marquisate, and for myself, I had taken on those burdens. But now, I still had to bear them. For my children and myself. The old staff was brought back. She was confined to her quarters and did not bother me. Everything seemed to have returned to normal. Until Tongor's birthday banquet, the Empress Dowager sent a pair of jade ruyi scepters. The other palace mistresses followed suit, sending gifts. That day, my daughter became the most dazzling young lady in the capital. In his happiness, he said, "My lady, Pingting also wants to celebrate with Tongor. She will not listen to me and has confined herself. On such a happy day, why don't you lift her confinement?" I instinctively looked at my daughter. She was surrounded by a group of noblewomen, including Zhao Linfei. When she saw me looking, she waved and smiled even more brightly. I couldn't help but smile back. "No matter what, she is still Tongor's stepmother," he said. "With so many guests here, it will be a joke if someone in our residence is still confined." I had never found him so annoying, like a buzzing fly. But I had intended to let her out anyway. I feigned surprise. Did she confine herself? When I returned from the palace that day, I said she no longer needed to be confined. Then I ordered a maid. "Go and invite concubine Song. Her confinement is lifted." She appeared in a lotus-pink dress and a gray short jacket, looking very understated. But on her, it was perfectly beautiful. She was truly a stunning beauty, no less than Consort Yi. Yi drank the tea she offered and said gently, "Concubine Song, there is no need for such formalities in a family. We have many guests today. You should help entertain them." She was overjoyed. "Yes, my lady." Everyone present praised my virtue. Watching him and her exchange flirtatious glances, I suddenly found my virtuous reputation quite ironic, but I needed it. After the guests left, he naturally walked toward her, intending to go back to her courtyard. She glanced at me, hesitated for a moment, and said gently, "Today is the young Mrs. birthday. The Marquis should stay in the main courtyard and spend more time with you and her." He frowned, hesitating. I said magnanimously, "Engu, or is already asleep. You should go with concubine Song tomorrow morning. We have to go to the palace to offer our thanks." She curtsied to me. I said gently, "You should go as well. Consort Yi is your cousin. It will be a good opportunity to see her." She was surprised and a little wary, looking at him with her large, watery eyes. There was a hint of caution in his eyes as well. After a moment's hesitation, he said, "All right." I smiled and parted ways with them at the gate. The moment I turned, my smile vanished. Any longer, and I might not have been able to control myself. In the palace, we first went to pay our respects to the Empress Dowager. The Empress and a group of concubines were also there. The noble consort looked her over and said with an ambiguous tone, "This lady behind Lady Chen bears a resemblance to our consort. Ye both great beauties." Consort Yi said, "This is my aunt's daughter, my cousin. It may be amusing to you, but my cousin saw the Marquis once years ago and has loved him ever since. Thanks to Lady Chen's generosity, she was allowed into the residence and given a title." The noble consort laughed. "Lady Chen is naturally virtuous. Otherwise, why would the Empress Dowager and the Empress favor her so?" I curtsied. "You praise me too highly, Your Highness." She gave me a cold smile, but it was not one of anger, more of a "you are too soft" look. The Empress Dowager finally spoke, beckoning to my daughter. "Child, come here and let me have a look at you," I whispered to my daughter. "Be good. Go and pay your respects to the Empress Dowager." Though young, she was not shy. She walked up to the Empress Dowager and said sweetly, "Grandma." I broke out in a cold sweat. I was just pretending. He turned pale with anxiety. The Empress looked at me and said on my behalf, "Mother, the child is still young." But the Empress Dowager was not angry. She was pleased. In my hometown, we call both our grandmothers Grandma. "Child, what is your name, Your Majesty?" "My full name is Chen Ruhong, and my nickname is Tongor." "Good names." The Empress Dowager stroked her head, then looked at my son and beckoned him over. Liner bowed properly. "Chen Linyuan pays his respects to Your Majesty." "A good child as well," she said. The Empress said, "Since you like them so much, why not let them stay in the palace for a night?" The Empress Dowager's own young relatives often stayed in her palace. The Empress's suggestion was not out of place. The Empress Dowager smiled and nodded. "Lady Chen, you and the children will stay in my palace for the night." I obey. Unexpectedly, Consort Yi requested that Song Painting stay in her palace and leave with me the next day. The Empress considered for a moment, then agreed. It is natural for her to miss her family. She may stay for one night. That night, as I had at Mount Wutai, I served the Empress Dowager alongside her attendants. She stopped me. "Miao Yi, for the past 6 months, your filial piety has not gone unnoticed. As for your and the Empress's schemes, I have turned a blind eye. I knew I could not hide it from her and knelt. Please forgive me, Your Majesty." She personally helped me up. "You accompanied me on my pilgrimage, and yet he brought a mistress into your home. He has not only wronged you, but he has also shown me disrespect. As for Consort Yi, she is just a seductive fox who has won the Emperor's favor. If the Empress wants to deal with her, I will not interfere." When it came to the palace's mistresses, I could only bow my head and say nothing. At dawn, an attendant rushed to the Shoan Palace. "Your Majesty, the Empress has already gone to the Yukshu Palace." She nodded thoughtfully and ordered slowly, "Prepare the carriage. We are going to the Yukshu Palace." I accompanied her. When we arrived, she was kneeling outside the hall, her hair a mess. When she saw me, she cried out as if I were her only hope. "My lady, save me! How could I harm my cousin? Someone must have framed me." I comforted her. "Do not worry. The Emperor and Empress are wise and will find out the truth." But attendants were carrying out basin after basin of bloody water. Consort Yi would not survive, and she was destined to take the blame. An attendant from the Yukshu Palace testified that she had pushed Consort Yi, who had then hit the corner of a table, causing her to miscarry. She cried and pleaded her innocence. I only pushed her accidentally, but she said she was fine. That very defense sealed her fate. The Emperor wanted to execute her. Rongyu secretly told me that he was kneeling outside the imperial study, but the Emperor refused to see him. As a virtuous wife, I could not ignore my husband's plight. I begged the Empress Dowager. "Harming an imperial heir is a capital crime," she said. "Go and persuade him not to let that woman drag down the entire Beiwai Marquisate." I feigned shock and rushed to the imperial study, relaying her words to him. He slowly looked up, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at me. After a long pause, he asked, "Was it you?" I felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over me. Harming an imperial heir is a capital crime. Even if I dislike her, I would never do such a heinous thing. He stared at me, as if trying to see through me. After another long pause, he said, "I was too hasty. I was wrong." Consort Yi died. The emperor ordered her execution. I heard that before she died, she kept asking to see him. But he had been stripped of his colonelcy and was under house arrest. He could not see her, being the virtuous wife. I went in his stead. She was disheveled, her prison clothes covered in dirt. She grabbed the bars of her cell. "Why did the Empress ask you and the children to stay in the palace that day? You conspired to harm my cousin and me." She had guessed correctly. So what? The Empress was determined to get rid of her, placing a few people by her side, bribing the physician she could do it all. She had pulled me into her scheme, partly to have a scapegoat, and partly because she overestimated my influence with the Empress Dowager. I had gone along with it, partly because I could not offend the Empress, and partly because I could not let Consort Yi's favor continue. With her around, she would eventually lord it over me. Who would protect my children then? Besides, Consort Yi was never pregnant. Rongyuet had told me that, which meant the Empress Dowager also knew. Concubine song. Do not forget. It was she who asked you to stay with her. She must have been manipulated by your people. I shook my head and sighed. Even now, you do not reflect on your actions but try to frame the Empress. How foolish. She was stunned, then burst into tears. So pitiful. So I decided to tell her one more thing. Concubine song. Oh, I suppose I cannot call you that anymore. My husband has expelled you from the residence and wants to sever all ties. Do not blame him. He had no choice. But coming from me, she would only find it laughable. There is nothing more cruel than killing someone with words. She slid down the bars, laughing coldly, tears streaming down her face. I watched her, then turned and left. When I returned, he was waiting for me. You went to see her. How do you think? For me, more important than getting rid of her is the future of our children and the honor and prosperity of our marquisate. He had no reason not to believe this. He became dejected. Is there any future for our marquisate now? I encouraged him as I had before. The title has not been revoked. That is hope, my lady. What should I do? He submitted a memorial to the palace. First, to confess his guilt and ask for punishment. Second, to request to be stationed at the border. The Empress had promised me that the Beiwai marquisate would not be implicated. But the Empress Dowager was displeased with him and wanted to teach him a lesson. Of course, he looked back at the gates, his eyes filled with sorrow. My lady, I leave the marquisate and the children to you. I nodded. Go without worry, Marquis. The children and I will wait for you to return. This scene suddenly reminded me of before I left for Mount Wutai, because I was accompanying the Empress Dowager. The farewell procession had been grand. At that time he had said, "Go without worry, my lady. The children and I will wait for you to return." I had returned, but he would not. After his figure disappeared down the road, I got into the carriage and went back. Zhao Linfei came to see me. Has he left? Yes, Miao Yi. The Empress Dowager values you. With her, you do not have to worry. I know. I smiled and nodded, not daring to tell my friend the truth. I do not understand strategy, but I understand women. I had spent years currying favor with so many women to win the Empress Dowager's affection. The closer one gets to power, the more terrifying it becomes. I kept thinking of what Rongyu had said. She had said Consort Yi was not pregnant, but the Empress Dowager valued heirs above all else. If she had known, would she have allowed the Empress to act, whether she was pregnant or not? Perhaps only the Empress knew. Linfei, I want to take the children back to Jiangning to pay respects to my parents. Will you come back? In a year at most. After my parents died, My uncle had their coffins sent back to our hometown to be buried in the ancestral tomb. Since marrying into his family, I had only been back once. It was time to pay my respects. Before you go, you must bid farewell to the Empress Dowager, she reminded me. With you all gone, there will be no master in the Beiwai Marquisate. I nodded. I understand. The Empress Dowager was my greatest support. I still needed to think carefully about how to dispel the Empress's suspicions and make her my supporter once again. After returning to Jiangning, I bought a cloth shop and had my people run a silk business. A year later, I returned to the capital with a chest of cloud-patterned brocade. I kept one piece for myself, gave some to the other noblewoman, and presented the rest to the palace. As usual, I first paid my respects to the Empress Dowager, then went to see the Empress. Lady Chen has been away for a year. I have missed you, she said. I have also been thinking of you, Your Majesty. I found this brocade and thought to return quickly to present it to you and the other ladies. You are thoughtful. She stared at me for a moment, then changed the subject, as if testing me. Last year, the matter of Consort Yi, I quickly replied. Your Majesty, although what she did was unintentional, she harmed the imperial heir in Consort Yi's womb. She deserved to die. The Empress nodded. The Marquis came to his senses in time and severed ties with that criminal. The Emperor did not blame him further, and I naturally will not blame you. Thank you, Your Majesty. You have just returned. I will not keep you long. On the 3rd of next month is Princess Jiangning's birthday. There will be a banquet in the palace. You may bring your son and daughter. Princess Jiangning was the Empress's own daughter, and much beloved. This meant that the storm had passed. I was overjoyed. Yes, Your Majesty. I thank you for the honor. After returning, I received an invitation from Zhao Linfei. I once again entered the circle of the capital's elite. By the princess's birthday, I had become a prominent figure in the capital. However, a month after the princess's birthday, news came from the border. The foreign tribes had sued for peace and offered tribute. Chen Huayu had died in battle. The day his coffin was escorted back to the capital, the emperor, in consideration of our widowed and orphaned state, allowed Liner to inherit the marquisate and granted me the title of a first-rank state lady. The marquisate was draped in white mourning cloth. Outside, the foreign tribute procession passed by with gongs and drums. The people lined the streets to watch, a lively scene. I looked at his memorial hall, listened to the laughter outside, and looked up at the cloudless sky. It was a beautiful day. The gloom had lifted. The living would all have better days ahead.